Good morning, good morning. I'm never sure actually how long it takes before you all go live, but there you are. I think you're live. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is Sunday, the 23rd of May. We're still in May. What does that mean? That means that we are still celebrating. We're celebrating the 25th year. 25 years since The Eagle and the Rose, my very first book, was published. The official publishing date was, of course, 19th of May, which is my birthday. We're celebrating my birthday and the 25th anniversary of The Eagle and the Rose all month long. We're having a blast here. So what am I saying? The 25th anniversary, still going strong, still selling, people are still finding it. It's not even, you think after 25 years it would be dated a little bit, wouldn't you? But it's actually not dated at all. The stories and the whole experience of what happened to me, how I began as a spiritual medium, all of that stuff is still as relevant today, as interesting, as fascinating today as it was 25 years ago. So it's sort of not dated one little bit. Anyway, I was going to show you the book, but I actually don't have it here with me. So this morning, to celebrate, now we're preparing this incredible anniversary dinner, birthday dinner. And this is what we're going to be doing this morning. So before we go any further, I'd like to say, first of all, good morning to my spirit guide, Brie, who's always standing next to me, my daddy, who's standing to this side of me, my brother's waving at me. What can I say? We've got a house full of spooky stuff going on. Well, actually, not a house full. We've got a kitchen filled with spooky stuff. Wow, not really spooky stuff at all. It's really nice. My daddy's brushing his hand on my shoulder as we speak. So, hey, so this is good. So now then, the first course that we made 3 weeks ago, I think it was, the first course was my delicious cheese. And I know that some of you have made it and we've had some great comments about that. I think the word delicious has come across so many times. We've also had, what else have we had? Then we had a grouper, and before I forget, I'd like to say good morning, Chris. Did you think I'd forgotten you?
Not at all. Good morning, Rosemary.
To Chris, who, as always, is standing by with the technical stuff and doing a great job, and she's going to be reading out some of your questions and comments in a little bit. So what do we have? So the week before last, we had a delicious Parmesan encrusted grouper, which my friend was supposed to be coming over to help me to eat. And it was a huge piece of fish. And I'm ashamed to tell you that I ate it all to myself with my delicious sauce. Anyway, last week, I know you all loved it, baby meringues with cream or with pastry cream, and pastry cream tartlets we made too. Well, what are we doing this week? Well, that's the sort of the appetizer, the main course, and the dessert. Is there anything else left? Well, I thought, now you can have this, what we're making today, you can have this before as sort of like a little hors d'oeuvre thing, or you can have it afterwards, because the British way is to have your cheese after dinner. So I thought I'd make a baked brie, and we're going to wrap it in some puff pastry. And I have another little trick up my sleeve to make it. So I'm going to show you how to do that first, because that has to go in the oven. So now, I usually make my own puff pastry, but I decided that I'd buy some frozen, and I love Pepperidge Farms frozen pastry. So here we are. It should be, can you see it? How clearly can you see that, Chris? I mean,
yes, sure. We can see the board, Rosemary.
It's supposed to be one sheet of pastry. Unfortunately, it sort of split and came apart as I was trying to thaw it. Now, if you're going to use frozen pastry, you need to thaw it a little bit, otherwise you won't roll it. So here we go. I'm going to put a little bit of flour, not a lot of flour, on the board. Then I'm going to try and piece these together. Now, it's easy, really. I promise you, it's really, really easy. Let me put it, if I move it up the board, can you see it better? If I move
Not
it
the
down
whole
board?
thing. Yeah, down is better.
Down the board. So what can we do with this? You know, pastry is a little bit like Play-Doh, as long as you don't handle it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly overlap the pastry. But before I do that, you can get a pastry brush if you like, but I like to use my fingers. I'm going to dab, this is just plain water, I'm going to dab a little, and I'm going to run a little bit of water down both the outside seams. There we go, because that'll help the pastry to stick a bit. And then I'm going to just slightly overlap, stretch, pinch, and then I'm going to do the same with that. I'm going to slightly overlap, stretch, and pinch. Now, okay, so now we've got this sort of like, it looks like a, don't worry, when it's cooked, you won't even see the patchwork, but it does look a little bit patchworky, doesn't it? Here is my brie, and it's soft. I've had it out of the refrigerator. It's soft because when it's baked in the oven, I don't want it to be a solid piece because it'll take longer to sort of, because we want the cheese inside to be a little bit melty, a little bit runny, don't we? So, okay, so what are we going to do with this? So, okay, so my hand's in here. I'm going to flour my rolling pin. Now, I don't want this to be, you know, I don't want to roll it out too thinly. It's puff pastry. It's a rough puff pastry. So, and it's this is also very easy to make. Maybe one day I'll show you how to make that. It's honestly easy. And I think people, you know, you hear these sort of things, you know, you hear about them, you know, that major cooks make it, and it's kind of a little bit off-putting for those of you who say, well, I don't really cook. Well, trust me, you can cook this because all it really requires is a little bit of rolling skills, sticking just a bit, but that's all right. I don't want it to be too thin. You can see I'm barely touching it. I just want it the size of my brie. So look at that. So the brie sits in the middle. You can use other cheeses for this if you would like to. There's no rule that says you've got to use brie. But because it's a soft cheese, when it's in the oven, it's sort of easy to melt. What am I doing now? You're saying, what am I doing? Marmalade. You can use anything. I like to use orange marmalade. What am I doing, you say to yourselves? Well, this is my little bit of extra, you know. So I'm just going to spread the orange marmalade over the cheese. It's just going to give it a little bit of, sort of like a little bit of sweetness. See, barely anything there. Barely, probably a teaspoon of that in there. Now I'm done with that. You know my rule. If you're done, move it. So, okay, so now, again, you can use a pastry brush. Should I use a pastry brush or should I use I'm going to use my fingers because here I am with it. So I'm just going to make sure it's nice and wet along the edges. I'm not drowning it, as you can see, but if you prefer a pastry brush, by all means, off you go. You know, I'm an old schooler. I don't think in Victorian times they had pastry brushes. Maybe they did. I don't know. Do you think they used, what would they use? Horse tails or cow tails or something? What do you think they would use? Right, now, here's what we're going to do. Corner to corner. Woohoo! There we go. Corner to corner. There we go. And there we go. Corner to corner. And then you've got these little corners. Just open them up fractionally. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. It's just like a parcel, really, that you're making. You can make it look pretty. And there's enough pastry here so that you are making sure that you really have a nice seal, because you don't want all the cheese to spill out, do you? So okay, and now you don't really have to be delicate at all, and you twist it around and you sort of make it look pretty. Now you You can fold it. You do what you like with it, really. Or you can cut a bit off. I'm just making sure that there are no gaps in the cheese at all, which there are not. I'm sealing the pastry. If necessary, I'll put my fingers back in the water and just pinch it. But now, see? And look at this pretty parcel cheese, and there you have it. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it in the freezer because I want my pastry nice and cold. When the pastry is nice and cold, the butter that's in there, when it goes straight into a hot oven, then we're going to put it into a hot oven at 400 degrees. When the butter hits that heat, it'll pop like that, and that's what makes the pastry puff, 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 puff out of the way. So I'm going to put that to one side. You know what I'm going to say now, don't you? And I made one earlier. So, let's see. Put that away. I'm going to take out the one that I made earlier. We're going to put it in the oven for about 25 minutes. Let's see. Where is it? So, can you see that, Chris? Here is
Yes.
the one I made earlier. It's been in the freezer for about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, but it's nice and cold. It's really nice and cold. It hasn't been in the freezer long enough for it to freeze the cheese in the center, because remember, I want the cheese to be nice and soft. So don't leave it in overnight, because then the cheese will freeze and then you've defeated the object. So leave it in long enough for the pastry on the outside to get really nice and cold. And now we're going to pop it into the oven. I've got it on at, I do believe, 400 on high up in the oven. That's that. And I'm going to put the timer on for, let's see, 25 minutes. Just going to rinse my hands of that pastry. There we go. So I'll do Alexa as well. Alexa, timer for 25 minutes. Do you have an Alexa in your house?
25 minutes, starting now.
See? So that, now I've got two timers, so I can't forget it while I'm making my other stuff. My daddy is rubbing his hands together. Gregor is chuckling away, because you know what we're going to do now, don't you? Yes. Well, let's see. So, getting a cluttered kitchen. I'm going to take this now out of the way. I shan't need that again. Right, let's see then. Now, I know that I'm supposed to be making margaritas, and I will, but first I thought I'd make a little hot toddy for you. My daddy's hot toddy. For those of you who are feeling a little bit under the weather, for those of you who just want a little bit of comfort, for those of you who are feeling a little bit blue because maybe you've got a stuffed nose or sore throat, or so I'm going to make my daddy's hot toddy for you, which is so simple and so easy. So let me show you. Let's go for that. Now, I did have a glass somewhere. Oh, there it is. So you can use for your hot toddy, you can use rum. Sorry, not rum. Sorry. You can use brandy or whiskey. I went into my cupboard today. I like brandy. I always use brandy. We're out of brandy. Thank goodness we've got some whiskey. So simple and easy. And all you need is some brandy or whiskey, some pickling spices. Why would I need pickling spices in my hot toddy? And some brown sugar. And if you have it, and I probably do, a cinnamon stick is nice, because you can stir it with a cinnamon stick. We're going to just use a spoon, which I'm going to get out now. I'm not particularly fond myself of cinnamon, And that's it. It's only me who's going to drink it. I'm not putting the cinnamon in there. But it is nice to have a cinnamon stick in there to stir it around. Now, let me see. And boiling water. So give me 1 second, everybody. So let's see. I've got one of those amazing, I think I could do. I've got one of these amazing taps that you know, it sort of heats up itself. So I like crystal. I always like to use crystal glasses. You can use whatever glass you like. When my daughter was very sick, she had an awful cold. She was about 6 or 7 years old. And I made her one of these, a weak one. And I cautioned her. I said, sip it very slowly. So she's all cuddled up in a blanket, in her nightie. She's sniffling away. She's dreadfully sick. She's got that awful head cold. I'm just going to sort of put maybe, that's about a finger and a half, 2 fingers, or about an ounce or something. You choose. It's your drink. You're drinking it. So you can have it lighter or heavier. And there she was, all snuggled up. So I made her a hot toddy, because my daddy always used to make me hot toddies when we were sick. And he always put pickling spices in. Now, most people do not put pickling spices in, so you can leave them out if you don't want them, but it does make a pop. In here now, into the whiskey, I'm going to put maybe a half to a teaspoon of brown sugar, maybe a tiny bit more. So I gave her the drink, went into the kitchen to get something to eat, came back out about 10 minutes later, and as I'm coming out of the kitchen, she's saying, Mummy, could I please have another one of those? She felt a lot better, but she downed it. So I made her another one weaker, but she loved it. And she felt so much better by the end of it. She went to sleep, and the next morning she was fine. So soft brown sugar in here, right? And just a pinch of pickling spices. So just a tiny, that's all I'm putting in. That's it. Can you see that? Okay,
Would you say it was a teaspoonful?
Just a pinch. You can put a big pinch or a little pinch. If you've never done this before, start with a little pinch and then work your way up if you want some more. And into this, if you're using a crystal glass, do not use it straight from the kettle because it can crack the glass. But it needs to be, I don't know if you can see the steam coming off there. So we're going to just very quickly add the water. Now, I used to make these when people came on Boxing Day. It's a great Boxing Day drink. People are out and about, they're playing in the snow, or they've gone skiing in the morning, whatever, and there's nothing nicer than coming out of the cold weather and having a hot toddy. So again, you can use brandy, which I prefer. You can use whiskey, some brown sugar, a cinnamon stick, and some hot water, and bingo. And that's, now this is my daddy's drink of choice. He used to make this for us if we were feeling sick. And yes, I'm going to try. I'm just looking at these pickling spices. So I'm going to give them a good stir. The pickling spices just sort of make it a tiny bit spicy. And if I were not feeling very well, the first thing I do is put my hands around the warm glass. You know how that feels. It makes you feel comfy. So let's try it. Let's have a sip. Okay, she says. Now, you know, I'm not a big whiskey drinker. If I'm not careful today, I'm going to be drunk before the end of this show, because this is Oh, delicious. Let me have another, just one more sip, everybody.
Would you fill the whole glass of water with water, Rosemary? I saw you
No,
do
well,
the halfway
no.
point.
If I had more whiskey, and it's your preference, everybody. Oof. This is a little bit strong. I might put a tiny drop more water in there, but not a lot more, because you're cold, you're freezing. You've just come from skiing. You've just come from building a snowman. You've come out of the cold. You're freezing, and somebody hands you one of these, and it warms you from the inside out. So this, everybody, is my daddy's hot toddy. You'll find the recipe in my cookbook. Honestly, though, you don't need the cookbook. Brandy or whiskey. What did I put in? A spoonful of soft brown sugar. I'm going to show you the, nice and soft, the brown sugar. It's that stuff that sticks together. You know that kind of sugar. That's what it is. And again, if you want it sweeter, if it's not sweet enough, you put a little bit more sugar in. If you don't want it to sweet, take a little out. So when you're making this, when you're trying, just as with everything you do in the kitchen, taste. So to put in less, because once it's in, you can't take it out. Remember, if you put too much salt in, you're messed up. Your dish is ruined. So always start with a little and work up. But these pickling spices are delicious in here. So all right. So I'm going to put all this to the side.
Rosemary, there's a question. Where in the UK were you from?
I was born and raised in the city of Leicester, and then lived in Leicestershire where my daughter was born. So there we have it. So is that somebody asking a question here?
Yes.
Right, now then, I'm going to leave this, apparently, I was going to put it over here, but I'm actually going to leave it to my left side so that my daddy can sip it, because it is, after all, my daddy's hot toddy. And now we're going to come to the margaritas. All right, so now this is fun, simple, easy. Why am I getting 2 plates, you ask yourself? Well, the 2 plates, I'm going to put them to the side. Got a nice big jug here and a big long spoon that goes inside of it. This margarita comes with a warning. It is dangerous. Sip it slowly. Take your time. Okay? Don't forget, take your time with it. It's a dangerous concoction. So if you don't want to be quite so dangerous, all you need to do is add more lime juice and make it weaker with the lime juice. That's all you need to do. Or you can just cut down the ingredients as you want. But it's a pretty standard and easy recipe. No, I do not use mixes because I really don't like them. So let's see. We have, and my tequila, I always have the Jose Cuervo, which is this great, I love it. But you can use, if you want to use a really cheap tequila, you can do that. And I always use, just because I'm a creature of habit, I always use Tecaipa triple sec. So here we go. So this is this. And I always use, once again, let's see. I always use the real lime. Now, you can get this in most supermarkets. If you can't get this, you can squeeze your own limes. If you've got a lime tree, if you live in Florida and you've got a lime tree, you can do it and it's pretty easy. But this is, has nothing in it. It's no additives, nothing. It is pure lime juice. You'd think it was expensive, wouldn't you? Because it's pure lime juice. I think it's about $5 a bottle or something. So let's have a go at this. My method is simple. So she says, easy and simple. Okay. So I'm using a measuring jug, this is a drinks measure. So I'm going to fill it to the rubber rim, because this keeps forever, just so you know. I'm not going to drink it all. We could have a party here, couldn't we? There we go. See, I barely touched. So that's about that. You can use a cup. You can use a jug. All it is the same measurements all round. The same, where's the top? What did I do with the top? Yeah, don't forget to put the tops on, everybody, because you don't want to accidentally knock it, do you? Moving that out of the way, and here we go with the triple sec. Triple sec orange liqueur. You can buy cheap, you can buy expensive. You know, it's going in with the tequila, so my advice would be, why spend money on something? I mean, it's all going to be mixed together anyway. You don't really need an expensive one, but the Kuiper, my mother and father always used to have the Kuiper brandy, cherry brandy or something like that. And so I got to know the name, and that's the only reason really that I'm using it. So roughly the same, and in it goes. Can you see how easy this is? Can you see how really, really easy this is? And so, and my daddy's talking to me. My brother's saying how nice it looks. I think my brother likes, he really likes margaritas. So, okay, now, let's see. I'm going to have to squeeze it. My advice to you is you can get lime juice, which is sweetened lime juice. Don't do it, because it's far too sweet and nasty. I'm going to put the whole bottle in here.
Out of curiosity, Rosemary, can you read how many ounces are in the lime bottle?
Sorry, what?
Can you read how many ounces are in the lime bottle?
That's 15 fluid ounces.
So there we go. There's your measurements. 15 for everything.
So there you are. So, you know, if you're using 20 ounces of lime juice, 20 ounces of the tequila, and 20 ounces of the triple sec, you know, it's just the same. It's it's one. Yeah. Let me do this properly. 1/3 of tequila, 1/3 of triple sec, 1/3 of lime juice. There. How easy is that now, right? So, all right, this is now out of the way. I'm going to show you my secret. And a good friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, who happens to own several restaurants, and he's a wine connoisseur. He's also a margarita connoisseur. He said, "Are you wondering what this is?" It is. Okay, are you ready? Some people call it confectioner's sugar. Some people call it icing sugar. Some people call it powdered sugar. But anyway, it's the stuff you make icing. It's a powdered sugar. Now, if you're just making a drink for yourself, in your margarita glass, you put a third, and then of whatever you want into the glass, and then you would put just the tip in of a little bit of icing sugar, not even that much in there, if it were just making one glass. However, we're going to sort of throw in about a teaspoon, and then we're going to, well, of course, we have to have the taste test. In it goes. Now, that's why we need the long spoon. We're going to stir, and stir again. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Now, I'm going to make a bit of a noise because I'm going to get some crushed ice. Where's mine? Okay. I'm going to get roughly the same amount of crushed ice. So, Chris, if you want to be sort of checking things out or saying anything to me while I make this noise on my ice maker.
Well, Rosemary, you have many people really watching your recipe here. Patricia had asked if you could use brandy, and I have responded, yes, you could use brandy for the toddy. We have people on from Tennessee, British Columbia, Charleston, South Carolina, Lindsay, Ontario, Canada, the
Okay,
Panhandle of Florida.
Thank you. Can you stop while I'm just doing this then? It's sort of, we've run a little bit out of ice, but you'd put a good thing of that straight in there. And because you want your margaritas to be icy cold. And we're going to stir that now, I have to tell you. Can you see that, Chris? The reason I use this clear glass is so you could all see the lovely colour of it and so on. Now, I do need to just taste it to make sure I've got enough sugar in there. Look at me, right? So, here we go. Just going to taste a little bit. Well, with the hot toddies, you're all getting me drunk today. Needs a tiny bit sour. I don't want it sweet though. I'm going to put another half a teaspoon. And you can see, just eyeball it, everybody. Don't get hung up on how much you should put in there. Just do it. You know, that's what cooking is all about, isn't it? It's absolutely what cooking is all about. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of this, not the ice, and you can see it's barely anything. Can you see this plate, Chris? Can you see what I'm doing?
Yes.
So what I've done is I've put a little bit of this mix onto a plate. Now, some of you out there might have a genius thing that you use that I don't know anything about. And if you do, you tell me. More so because I like my margaritas with salt. I'm going to put a little of this special salt. You can, I don't know if you can see this. What is it called? Let's see what it's called. It's called, oh, it would be helpful if I read it the right way up, wouldn't it? It's margarita rim trim. Margarita rim trim. But really, all you need is coarse salt. You might want to try sea salt or, you know, whatever, but not regular table salt. I would think that that wouldn't be quite right. Some nice coarse salt or sea salt. This happens to be blue. I've got some blue, some pink, and some red. And there, I'll put that there. Now, I'm going to sort of just put it, just imagine that I'm making a dozen margaritas for people, right? I've sort of got to do this. I'm sort of making it so that, see this glass here? This is my margarita glass. If I put that in there and run it around, I'm going to get salt. But how do we get the salt to stick? Well, this is my little trick. But if you have a better trick, let me know. All right, so I'm going to put the lime juice. I'm going to make sure that the whole entire rim of this margarita glass is wet. And I'm simply going to take it. Can you see what I'm doing, everybody? I'm going to take it from here to here. I'm going to whiz it around. Make sure I've got plenty of salt. I don't know how well you can see that if I put it to the camera. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
How well that is? All right, so I'm going to put this to the side now. And now, usually I don't have one margarita glass because I don't make it if I'm just doing it for myself because, well, why would I? I think my hot toddy just went down fractionally, so I'm going to have another taste. Oh, I have to say, this is so delicious. It's really, I'd forgotten how delicious it was. Living in Florida, we don't come in out of cold. So it's only when I have a cold or a cough or a sore throat that I'm inclined to make it, and it does make me feel better. So now, to make sure that this margarita is as icy and good as we can get it, going to put in, let me just check the timer. We've got 4 minutes. It smells good. You do realise I'm taking a risk here. Now, if your pastry splits, don't worry about it. It's still going to taste good. I'm putting 3 ice cubes in there because I do want my margarita to be nice and cold. There we go. I'm looking to check to see if I've used everything here that I need to. I've got some crackers for my brie right there. Any kind of crackers will work. Let's see. And shall we just pour this? Oh God, it's heavy. There we go. And in it goes. And here we have the best, the most delicious margaritas. I have to tell you, I've got, you should see my counter. I've got sherry. I just actually said to my brother, you could have this if you like. And he said, no, he'd have the margaritas. My father is definitely wanting the brandy, whiskey, so the hot toddy, sorry. And so it looks like I've got the sherry. So, all right. So let me taste it to make sure that it's good. I've just tasted it, so I know it really is. And then we'll take, by the time we've done all of this, the brie should be ready to come out. I cannot guarantee that the pastry is, if it's split or not split. I'm hoping it's puffed up. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll have to leave it in for another 5 minutes because it isn't quite cooked. That's the joy and the beauty of a live show. But while we're waiting for the brie, let's see. So cheers, everybody. That salt looks very good. I know it looks like I'm not loving it. Oh, but it's so good. That lime is delicious. It's tart, a little bit sour. It's really... Do I look like it's awful, Chris? Do I look like I'm drinking medicine?
It's definitely sour, isn't it?
It's a little bit sour. Again, if you want to add more powdered sugar, not regular sugar, everybody, powdered sugar, because you want it to dissolve into it immediately. And there you have it. So I'm surrounded by drink, and any minute now my beeper should go. And oh, look at, see, Alexa, off. Do we think that that was perfect timing? So
absolutely.
With the brie, you can put it on a nice platter. You can put it with some really nice crackers. You can make crispy toasts. I should show you how to make those one day, shouldn't I? You can make some very, very thin, crispy toast pieces that go with it. So this is my official cheese board, which I love this. And shall we take a peek? I'm only going to put the light on. I'm going to take a little peek because puff pastry, it needs to puff up. And if you open the oven too soon, you know, it'll sink a little bit. So let's take a peek, shall we? And if we need to leave it in for another few minutes, well, I guess that's what we should do. So where is my light? And oh, it's not nearly ready. So I'm actually going to put the oven up to 425. 5. Let's see. Oh, Phil. Let's do that again. And I think the cheese is spilling out a little bit, but we don't care about that either. Because when you cut into it, if the cheese is nice and soft and runny, all the more easily we can scoop it up with our biscuits. So we're going to leave it for another 5 minutes, and I've turned the oven up just a little bit. So let's see, 1, 2, 5. There we go. All right, so Chris, while we're waiting for the brie, I just sort of sit here with my margaritas and
Are you sure you're not going to be the sort of slinking down and disappearing from the camera view?
can I tell you what's going to happen? I can tell you that exactly what's going to happen is when this is over, I'm going to climb on the sofa, get a book, probably fall asleep, because this is a lot of booze we've got in this house just for one person. These margaritas, what I do when I go to my daughter's house and I make margaritas, she has some great neighbors who often come over. So what I do is I make a really big batch and we keep it in the refrigerator and it can stay in there. Well, if it lasts that long, it can stay in there up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks even, because there's not a thing that can go wrong with it. It can't go bad, it can't go wrong as long as you keep it in the fridge. Delicious. So, Chris, while we're waiting for our brie.
Yes. Karen's saying, "Oh my, you're making my favorite. Cheers." I'm sure she would love to be in that kitchen with you.
Cheers to you, Karen.
Lee says, "Cool. Too bad I don't drink."
Well, you cannot make a virgin margarita that I know of, but you can make some delicious lime drinks. When my grandson comes, he likes apple teenies. We do the apple, and we do the. We'll use soda water, or we'll use some kind of tonic water, something like that, and lots of ice and some fruit in it. And he really thinks that he's having a real drink, and he loves it. So you can always do there are lots of virgin drinks that you can make. Virgin means no alcohol, but that is good. Keep going, Chris. How are we doing?
Vicky had answered your question early on when you were wetting the pastry corners down and talking about a pastry brush and what people must have done in the past. She said that brushes were made of boar bristle.
Oh, there we are then. Well, boar bristle is very stiff. I wouldn't like to put that on my pastry. I think I'll stick to fingers. But thank you for that piece of information. Keep going.
Wendy said she had margaritas last night, but she was very much looking forward to seeing how you made them.
Well, Wendy, we'd love to know how you make yours. I mean, anyone sending in a recipe of any kind, mine are deadly. You have to sip extremely slowly, and you've got to eat with them. And it just occurred to me that I should be eating one of these crackers as I'm talking to you. Keep going, Chris.
I am says yum. And Junior's on from Glasgow, Scotland.
Hi, Junior.
Maggie's on from Oklahoma. And I know I missed somebody else here. It's a cool name. Marianne's from East Kootenay Mountains of British Columbia. I just like the name.
We've got people from all over the world. Good job.
Yeah. I don't yet have any comments or questions other than this.
Oh, well, that's good, right? Everybody's just perfectly happy with what you see and what you got. Let's see how much longer. I don't want to be impatient about this pastry, so I put it in for 25 minutes on a hot oven. I should have perhaps put it on 425, the oven, and left it for 25 minutes, and then maybe it would have been, maybe would have done a better job. This pastry has split. I was making it early this morning. It is important, if you can, when you're making this brie, when you're making this pastry, it is important to sort of make sure that all the edges are sealed. And I must have missed a sealed edge, but we don't care, do we? The brie is pouring out. That's going to be the thing that I scoop up first thing. It's not, the whole thing isn't collapsed. It's just on one end you can see it seeping through. And that's the joy of live cooking, because, the truth of the matter is this. It doesn't matter how well you cook, and it doesn't matter how often you cook. You can't produce perfect. every time. And this is not about us producing perfect. This is about just having fun in the kitchen and just showing you the things that I like to eat. And in this case today, and the things that I like to drink. I'm debating, should I have some more margaritas or should I have some more brandy? But my daddy always told me, he's laughing as I'm saying this, he always said, don't mix it, because mixing it means that you're going to get really sick. So, well, then I guess I should just have another sip of this. Are you all joining me? Even if you're having a virgin something, that's okay. We can chink, we can say cheers, we can certainly say happy birthday, happy 25th anniversary of the Eagle and the Rose. And I can smell the pastry. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that any minute now I'm going to take it out whether it's cooked or not, and I'll show you what it potentially looks like, because I can always put it back in the oven for another 5 minutes, and there it goes again. Okay.
Well, Carolyn's saying, by the way, I loved your thought of the week.
Oh, good. Do you want to repeat it to everybody, Chris? What was it?
It was about the power of words.
Right.
And then, of course, anyone who was at your webinar yesterday, in combination with hearing your power of words, probably really got it.
It was, I have to say that after the webinar yesterday, and we had so many lovely comments from everybody, we always do sort of, after we do something, we always get together, a group of us get together and we sort of critique what could we do better. Now, we can't necessarily critique with Grey Eagle because what he decides is. However, somebody pointed out that, and this is very true, when a medium goes into a trance state, which is what happened yesterday at the webinar, you go into a trance state, and there are 3 stages of trance, as I explained. There's a light trance, a medium trance, and a deep trance. And it doesn't matter which stage of trance you're going into, it might take a few minutes for that to happen. And so from those watching, from their point of view, there must have been a lot of silence and a lot of waiting and people wondering what's going to happen. Now, some people said that they were waiting in anticipation because they knew something was happening. I did try to explain beforehand that this was what was going to happen and that we had to be patient and to be quiet, but perhaps I did not make it clear that, and we actually timed it, or Chris, you timed it afterwards. You watched it afterwards, right, Chris?
Yes.
And timed it, and I think it took 4 or 5 minutes or something.
Right. I saw when Grey Eagle first smiled, and then it was just a couple of minutes after that when he could actually use your voice box and speak.
But it's interesting to me that we're not used to silence, are we? So when we are quiet, when we are listening, and I teach my students, I try to explain to my students that you can actually hear silence, and I train my students, some of my students, to hear the sound of silence. And weird thing to say, right? But there is a sound to silence, but you have to be so very, 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 very quiet to hear it. And sometimes when we're quiet, that minute seems like an hour. That 2 minutes seems like, oh my gosh, endless. And so the idea that people had to wait perhaps for 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes for something to actually really begin to happen is something that I think a lot of people are not used to, but I think it's something that we should all learn, because when you are silent and you are quiet and you find that inner stillness within you, that's what's important, because that is when you really start to hear, that is when you really start to communicate, that is when you start to really learn. And my daddy wants to say something here that I'm trying to listen to what he says. So what he says is pure science is pure silence is purity. And if you've ever attained that pure silence, I know exactly what he means. And if you have ever attained that pure silence, it creates that pure silence. It's like a stillness. It feels you are completely still. My friend Mary Lou yesterday, when she was at the webinar, she was saying afterwards about me, because she was right there in the room with me. You didn't move, she said. You were frozen. You were totally still, and that is part of what going into trance means. You have to find that stillness within you, so that you can achieve all of the things that you want to achieve. And it's not an easy thing for a lot of people to do. I'm hoping I've not left it in so that it burns now, but it is what it is, right? So I'm not going to worry anymore, but I'm going to take it out. Let's have a look. Shall we have a look and see what we did this morning, and see how much of that melted cheese I can scoff up before it starts to get solid again. Oh,
June.
yes. Lovely, lovely. Oh, golly, yes. Lovely.
Oh, doesn't that look
beautiful.
pretty and brown?
Beautiful. Can you see that, Chris?
Yeah, that looks gorgeous.
It's sizzling away.
I feel like I can hear it.
There's not, there's not too much of the brie that's poured out. Let me see, where am I going to put it? Let's remove these biscuits just for a second here. And let's lift with my oven gloves. Let's see. There you go. Oh gosh. And this little bit of melted cheese, there's nothing like cooked cheese. I'm going to leave that in the pan to let it cool a little bit, and then I'm going to scoop that up with my crackers. Okay, so let's see. Okay. And yummy. Can you see it?
Yes.
Can you see it better there?
Yes.
There, you can see. Pastry is, how well can you hear that? Let me see. If I,
Yes, we can
hear that.
Yep.
And of course, remember that we've got marmalade in there as well, and the marmalade sort of melts as well. We should really leave it. Let's leave it just to settle for a few minutes. Are there any more questions or comments before I cut into this thing?
Yes, Junior's saying, I felt a lot of heavy vibrations after the webinar. I was happy to see others get answers to take on their journey for the highest good.
Well, it is interesting, Junie, that you've said that, because Gregor always tells us that, you know, our loved ones in the spirit world are all around us. And even when you're watching a webinar, or even if you're just watching TV or something, very often our loved ones in the spirit world, they will come to us. But in moments like this, when you're watching something like this, and you're involved in something like this, without even realizing it, you are attaining, without realizing it often, you're attaining a sensitivity and a level of awareness. Your higher self is sort of coming to the fore, even as you're participating in this. So I think that, you know, because I know you to be a very sensitive, very sensitive person, and you are very aware of what is going on in the universe and around the universe. I know you want to learn more and more about it. But I think that when you are involved in something like the webinar, when you are part of, and especially direct voice, is very rare to watch somebody doing it properly, doing it for real, let's say. And I think that, you know, you become so much in tune, because you're watching and listening and paying attention, become so much in tune, that it does not surprise me one little bit, Junie, that you're saying that you felt that vibration. And I bet you that that vibration was not just all around you, it was within you as well. You know, starting, forming, creating a level of energy within you, so that you can sort of become more sensitive and more aware than you are. And I think, you know, so many people got that from the webinar. We've had so many people commenting about the webinar, And even if you don't get a message yourself, I think it's impossible to say that you didn't get a message at all, because when you listen to Greg, I think every single one of you, I can't say me, I have to look back at it, that I was totally pretty much unaware of what was going on. So I have to look back, but I know Greg well. So all day, every day, I'm getting messages. I'm getting tapped on the shoulder by my dad, with my loved ones as well, with my brother who's here, with my father who's here. They're always trying to help us, to guide us, and to sort of help us to attain that level of consciousness that we really want to achieve. And I think it's impossible to not receive messages. It might not be the answer to the one question you had, but the answers to so many questions is amazing, really amazing. And I loved when, and I've heard him say this before, but I know this because I've had conversations with a lot of people who were at the webinar, and what they tell me they heard. I love the fact that Greg was able to explain that there are not levels to the universe, they are layers to the universe. Huge difference, very great difference, as he explained, I'm sure. So, so we loved it. And Junie, we loved having you there. We loved having everybody there. And I think, we've had so many comments. It's for me, as I do it, it's truly a holy moment. It's a magical moment. And when Mary Lou said to me, you didn't move for the entire time, that nothing moved, it looked as if you were frozen. And I explained to her, it wasn't that I was frozen, it was that I was still. Now I'm not going to be still any longer, because I'm going to, shall we cut this cheese and see what it looks like? What do you think? What do you think?
Do you want to snap a picture before you cut it?
Oh gosh, I suppose I should, shouldn't I? How am I supposed to do that? I don't know where my phone is. Oh, there it is. Chris, just for you, so that we can put it up there for all to see what we've been messing about with today. I should make sure that margaritas right there too, shouldn't I? Okay, so let's do this then. Okay, so let's take the brie first. Yummy, yummy in my tummy.
Do you want any other questions while you're doing this?
Yes, go for it.
All right. Carolyn said, I would love to have the questions that were asked so that I can try and remember all that Gray Eagle said. There was so much to digest, such wise, loving answers, but I find it hard to remember everything.
Well, yes. Well, we did have a couple of people writing things down. There you go. And we did have a couple of people writing things down, and we are working on trying to get a transcript together. So hopefully that'll be available. It will not be available until the end of May, because we're not even going there because we're so busy with May. But I think that, we're trying to make the video available, whether it's on demand or whatever it is, and we're trying to make it available to those of you who came to the webinar. There might be a small cost, or we'll have to wait and see. We do not know what we're dealing with, but we do have to make sure that the videos, that our webinars, all of them, they're protected and they're safeguarded, and nobody can come in there and use or misuse them. Anyway, back to the brie. I'm hungry. It's got to be lunchtime, hasn't it? Surely it's nearly 1 o'clock. Are you ready? I'm going to be very quiet as I'm cutting it, because I want you to hear the crisp of the pastry. Can you hear?
Somewhat.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to, let's cut a piece. It's lovely and crispy. One of my favourite pastries is puff puff, rough puff or flaky pastry. Okay, there we have it. Now you can see that there's the pastry bottom, which is nice and crispy, You see the brie, and you can see where the marmalade is there. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's a nice layered brie. It needs to be served warm, I would say. So, sort of put it in the oven when you know your guests are arriving. I'm cutting a little piece off because, look, I have to taste it, don't I? Don't I? Of course I do. Well, I have to wrangle it off the plate first. It's a little bit hot, so I have to be careful how I eat it. Why don't I just put a little bit of brie and a little bit of pastry? Try that. Oh. If you love pastry as much as I love pastry, you're going to love it. That's really delicious. And now guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to wash it down with some margaritas. So, cheers everybody. Thank you for joining me in Rosemary Altea's kitchen today. If you have an idea of something that you'd like to see me make, please send it in, because we'd love to have recipes, and I like to have new recipes that I can try. Also, next Sunday, we're not quite sure what we're going to make. I might show you how to make potted beef. Junior, you know what potted beef is, I'm sure. I'm sure everybody in England knows what potted beef is, but nobody in the States knows what potted beef is. They don't even know what it's all about. So I might show you how to make some potted beef. And it's really the old-fashioned, old-style way. And when you used to go into the butcher when you were younger and, ask for potted beef, and it came with that nice sort of coating of fat on the top. It sounds awful, but delicious. Oh gosh, it was so good. And it was sort of the poor man's pate. So we might do that, and we'll do some other things. And I might even find another drink for us, because after all, this is the after party now. This is after dinner, enjoying ourselves with the brie, with the margaritas. And if I don't feel well the next morning, stealing this from my daddy, if we don't feel well the next morning, a hot toddy too. Delicious. Thank you everybody for joining me. Yes. You see, I'm not pulling a face now, am I? Not quite, anyway. I know what I'm going to have for lunch. I think I'm going to have some of this brie for lunch. So tomorrow we should be doing our Motivational Monday. I have no idea what we're doing with it. On Tuesday, off the cuff. We might do an off the cuff later on. You just never know. Stay awake, Junior, in Scotland. You never know what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be up to. On Wednesday, we're going to have our Wellness Wednesday. I'm going to be talking to you about healing and about how you can continue to build your energy and how you continue through visualization to give healing to yourself and to your loved ones. Thursday, of course, we have our 11 a.m.
The Spirit World.
Sees all. And Friday, we have another volunteer for our bottom brick. The response that we're getting from our bottom brick is incredible, and the people want me to continue doing it. Well, we shall see what happens with that, but the response we're getting is absolutely amazing with that. And then, of course, on Saturday, here we come around to another week. On Saturday, it is our story time. It'll still be May, won't it? So I'm not sure quite when June the 1st is, but we'll be keeping going until the end of May. And then even after that, we shall keep going somewhat, perhaps not as intensively as we've been doing, but you've all been fabulous. I really do thank you so very, very much for your help, your support, your birthday wishes, your congratulations on the 25th anniversary wishes. You are fabulous, all of you. I'd like to say thank you, Chris, very much for doing what you're doing. I'm waiting. My brother, I think my daddy is going to be sitting on one side of me. My brother's going to be sitting on the other side of me. They're fighting now over the hot toddy. Sorry, my brother still wants a margarita, so they can have those. I'm going to have the brie. I think that we're all laughing about this. We're going to be having such a good time together. I hope that you connect with your loved ones in the spirit world, and you have such as good a time as I'm going to have. So please, everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the day. Have a very blessed rest of the weekend, and I will see you whenever I see you.